with a lot of things that we do, whether it be, sports or music or any type of hobby, it takes practice.
Right.
It takes practice to get better. But I need to know how to practice, and I need to know what to practice. So how do I practice my emotional intelligence?
Sure. So my favorite thing to recommend to somebody is keep an emotional intelligence journal on a daily basis.
Okay.
And again, to the point of practicing and trying to get to a point where you're really managing it effectively, don't go out and try to be an expert on the first day. It's going to take time because you're retraining different reactions and different stimulus and different triggers to work in your favor where they haven't worked in the past.
Yep.
So for instance, when you start your day, start with 5-10 minutes in the morning and say, okay, what do I want my day to look like? What does that look like to me? What does success look like? What does happiness look like? What are my priorities? Focus on those things. And how do I want to feel at the end of the day? And then from morning to lunch, understand that things are going to happen because, like I said, when we wake up, we are in our own space, but then the world happens.
Right.
Emails start coming in, phone starts ringing, you get text messages, you're on social media, you're interacting with your family and your colleagues, things happen. So by lunchtime, you've taken on all of these different stimulus. So by the time you get to lunch, take 5-10 minutes, either during the beginning of your meal, right before you start it, and jot down the things that happened. What made you happy? What frustrated you? What made you mad? What stalled your energy out? Write those things down, tie it to an emotional response.
Okay.
If I write those things down, I can then go back and look at them and think, okay, Brian made me feel inspired. Maybe I want to find more time to spend with Brian.
Right.
If Josh's email made me mad, then I probably need to think of ways to talk with Josh about our interactions. And it's retraining those responses. That's how you practice your emotional intelligence.
And it requires, and I love that, it requires the affirmative step of actually recording your thoughts, recording your emotions.
Right.
I think that's a hurdle that's hard to get over, that initial starting to journal or starting to, memorialize your thoughts. But I agree with you that if you can make that a habit, it can be very effective, and especially with your expertise with emotional intelligence, it sounds like it can really lead to some benefit. Passion comes from activities that we really enjoy doing.
Right.
I like to work. I like what I do, but I also have hobbies that I'm passionate about as well.
Sure.
What would you tell someone on how to find passion in your job, in your work?
Sure. And I think most people, when they look at their tasks or their job description, they're the things that they do, the tactics of what they do on a day-to-day basis. And I will say, for somebody who worked in a law firm for 10 years, there's nothing really sexy about working in a law firm. There's not a whole lot of passion there for what I did.
Right.
But when I looked at my job description versus what I was looking at from my purpose standpoint, so instead of saying I help train attorneys or I help market attorneys, I turned it on its head and said, what am I passionate about that aligns with the tactics?
Okay.
So I'm helping people. I'm serving people. I'm sharing information, and I'm making people better by engaging with them. I'm passionate about that. Am I passionate about writing website bios? Hell no. But am I passionate about helping people and making them better? Absolutely. So when you flip it on its head and look at the passion within the tactic, or what you're doing to be passionate about what you're providing, that's where you differentiate. That's where you separate, I gotta go to work, with I get to go to work.
Right. I love that. That's great. So speaking of passion, you and I have talked about some well-known folks and how they employ emotional intelligence and passion into their success. Like Oprah, Tony Hawk, Kobe Bryant. Tell me some of those, some of your feedback on that.
Yeah, when you think about different industries, different areas of entertainment, sports, business, when you think about the first person that comes to mind when you think about a dominant figure in their sport, in their passion, in their trade, those are the people that really embody emotional intelligence. I think about Kobe Bryant, for example. Kobe Bryant was exactly. And that's why the greatest of all time conversation is always a dynamic one, because everybody's got a different level. But, Kobe Bryant to me was the one that really spoke to emotional intelligence. This dude on the court, you can look at pictures of Kobe Bryant and see the passion in his eyes for the competition, for the drive, for the why, the why of what he's doing. And, when Kobe Bryant would lose, or, there were times where I'd heard an interview with him where he said, there were a lot of times I didn't want to practice. I was too sore. I was beat up. We had a late game, or, we run a 3 or 4 game stretch. I'm tired. But that emotional intelligence trigger of saying, I'm tired, but my desire to want to win is stronger than that.
Yeah.
So how can I retrain myself to think, okay, this is more important than the pain, or this is more important than the fatigue, or I need to do something because there's somebody that's chasing me right now, because he took the time to build who he was as a player.
Yep.
And he got really good. Yes, he was naturally talented, but natural talent without that passion and dedication is worth nothing.
Right, right. Now, what about Tony Hawk? He's an interesting character. You know, obviously very successful not only in his sport, skateboarding,
right.
but also on the business side.
Oh, absolutely.
So similar traits to Kobe, I assume.
Yeah, and I think when you level in somebody like a Tony Hawk, when I think about him as a business figure, he's done a beautiful job of really honing his brand. I can't name another skateboarder.
Right.
I don't know if you can either, but I mean, I can't think of another skateboarder. Tony Hawk is it.
Yep.
But when I think about Tony Hawk, you know, I have this image of this picture I have in my presentation that talks about fearlessness, because every day is scary.
Yep.
Life is scary. And even the small tactics, picking up the phone to call a new prospect or dealing with an angry customer, it takes courage to do that.
Yep.
It's a fearful situation. And so when I think about that kind of a fear, I think about Tony Hawk. Because Tony Hawk is, you know, he jumps off of things and vaults himself into the air, and he has to have fearlessness to stick what he's doing and to be successful with what he's doing. He can't jump off a half pipe with any kind of fear or doubt in his mind whatsoever. That's what makes him different. That's what makes him so successful.